torn ACL leader fan radio network.
Ow!
And KFAN.com. 1 minute and 2 minutes and 2 seconds past 3 o'clock. That is Central Standard Time. Welcome back. It is a Wednesday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program on a decidedly overcast, murky weekday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Guardsy produces the program. My name's Dan Barreiro. I'm the occasional host of the show, former Inkstain Wretch newspaper of the Twin Cities, and we're delighted to be here, and we're delighted that you're along for at least part of the ride today between now and 6:30. Going the distance today?
We are.
At least for now.
Yes.
Could
into
change.
Fan on Demand, into Wild Hockey, I believe. There's a lot going on tonight.
It's our last Wild game before the break, I believe.
You're right.
This is it.
Roster freeze, I think, just took hold.
Really?
Can't do anything.
We will continue to monitor the wires as we get ever closer to the NBA trade deadline, which is, 23 hours from now, 2 o'clock Central Time tomorrow afternoon. Wolves have done nothing, although now there is some speculation that now that Mike Conley has been a part of 2 trades, the second one that was, I think, sending him, where was the second one sending him to? Was it Carolina? Charlotte.
Yes.
That he can now, if the Wolves so deem, and he's interested, come back here to sign a minimum contract. So is it possible we said goodbye to Mike Conley too soon? Stay tuned. But there will have to be, I think, to satisfy most Wolves fans, including this one, there'll have to be a little more meat on the bone than just the welcome return, potentially, of Mike Conley. I mentioned, but we'll continue to monitor. We'll keep an eye on it. In fact, our 3:30 guest will go deep into what the Wolves might do, what he thinks the Wolves should do, and maybe even get his reaction to another blockbuster deal. Street clothes is on the, that's a good thing about being in street clothes all the time, right? You just get on a plane because you're already in street clothes. You don't have to change from your uniform into street clothes. You're already in the street clothes.
Exactly right.
Going from Dallas to Washington, right? What's his name? Anthony Davis?
Anthony Davis,
He is on the move yet again as part of a so-called blockbuster deal. So we'll get our 3:30 guest reaction to that as well. I'm not going to lie to you. I have found myself just fascinated with this Lindsey Vonn story. As I understand it, her knee is shredded.
Yeah.
But she continues to tell people that she has no intention to not participate in the Winter Olympics in Italy. That she's not going to let it get in the way of her effort to continue a fairly dramatic comeback at age. Is she 40 or 41?
41.
41 years old. And what I've already learned that I admit I didn't know, I know a great downhill skiing mind from way back.
Yes.
Is that there are other skiers who have occasionally tried this. They have done this. It's not undoable. It sounds hideous. It sounds awful. When the folks who say they've done it have done it before, have they done it successfully? I mean, she's in this obviously to, I would assume, medal, right? I mean, she wants, that's what Lindsey Vonn is all about. And I got to tell you, I find myself rooting for this story, even if, sadly, it comes at her expense. Isn't that sad? Because I think this story is kind of like why sports is as popular as it is. We don't have to deal with, I can go way back and remember a column I wrote for the Indiana Daily Dissident, as Bob Knight used to call it, the Daily Student, Bloomington, Indiana. And it was when Muhammad Ali was mulling over another comeback. And I did kind of like a back and forth with the two sides of my conscience, the one side saying, my God, you can't come back again, champ. You've already done too much damage. You're going to do more damage. It's too dangerous. And then the other side of me is, you're Muhammad Ali.
Right.
Go ahead. do it. And I think that's how I finished the column. Because I don't have to live with the consequences. We as sports fans don't have to live with whatever those consequences are. But is it not true that this is the kind of story that attracts us to sports in the first place? Can she do it? Yeah, okay, maybe it's been done before, but can you win a medal doing it? Can she do something that dramatic? On the other hand, you say, well, I don't want her to do something that might, I don't know, put her in a position later where she might have to be in a wheelchair, or it might be more difficult for her to walk the rest of her life. She's accomplished so much. What could possibly be worth it at this point? But again, it's not me. She gets to decide what she wants to do. But deep down, I have to admit, I'm fascinated by how this might play out, whether she can be successful doing it. And isn't it human nature to just sort of root for that story?
Big time.
Because you don't have, like I said, you're only thinking, I'm thinking in the moment. I'm thinking of, God, what a rush it would be for everybody who's followed her career, likes to win her Olympics, looks for stories, and this could be the story of all stories if she somehow pulls this off and not only competes, which would be, impressive in itself on the basis of the injury, but could actually excel, correct?
It was already an incredible story. The reason why it's gone to another level here in the last week, when she fell on the mountain in the last week, everybody was down about it, right? Because we were already looking forward to rooting for her in Italy, just because she's already come back from a knee injury before. This was the other knee, retiring and stepping away to see if she could come back and do it. And then she topped it off today. I don't know if you saw any of her press conference, but she gave the old Michael Jordan quote where she just said, I just can't accept not trying. It might not go well. I might not be able to do it, but at least I'll know. And I'm paraphrasing the rest of that, but she just said, I can't live with myself, essentially, if I don't go out there and at least try to see this thing through.
There's some interesting texts that have already come in.
I'm sure there are.
Example. Isn't this pretty selfish? Like there's not a single other American woman who would do better than Vonn with a ruptured ACL? I presume there is an alternate,
sure,
right? And it's that's part of what makes this, I think, such a fascinating controversy to me, because you could make that argument.
But we also don't know if others have done it. And doesn't Lindsey Vonn, of all people, deserve the chance to try?
I'm a physical therapist. I'm all for Vonn trying to ski. You're not going to hurt the knee anymore, and you've put in the training, so why not? On the other hand, why is everyone okay with Vonn doing it, but yet everyone had no problems grilling the purple when our quarterback was hurt, Carson Wentz, and he didn't get, as I demanded, and as I think you agreed, he should have been removed from the game.
Because we watched it.
Is that a box?
No.
But what if we watch, it goes bad for her, and she ends up in that same kind of pain? Are we going to feel any guilt for egging her on, for encouraging this on the front end on a Wednesday on the Bumper to Bumper show?
Well, I know, even though she's one of us, and she podcasts the show religiously.
She should.
I don't think anybody tells Lindsey Vonn what to do, straight up, right?
Right.
So, but if she does make a couple of runs at it and it's bad, we might definitely have the Carson Wentz. What are they doing? What is she doing? She needs to be careful. But I don't know if I'm going to feel it. And I don't want to put Carson Wentz in the same conversation as Lindsey Vonn too much longer, with respect to Carson Wentz.
Yeah, but it can't just be about status. It can be about what you think the suffering is going on at that moment. I don't think anybody is trying to equate one to the other. I think the point he's trying to make is how we decide when we feel the only decent thing to do is for that athlete to stop competing.
Yeah, when we see
to be saved from himself or herself. Yeah. Right. That's I think the point they're trying to make. I don't think he's trying to say Wentz has got the same level of achievement.
If we see it and she's not doing well and it looks like she's hurting herself, we can always change our mind.
We can?
Yes. That's the beauty of it. But when she tells us, I'm going to give this a shot, I think she deserves the benefit of the doubt.
Here's a quote from Nick Page, a member of Team USA Skiing. She set a new standard for what's possible coming back from her time away, her injuries, her surgeries, everything. And be back at such a high level. That's what makes it such a shame to see her go down with that injury. But, man, it's now like a fairy tale ending. She's going to be the one to come through this. If there's anyone who can do it, it's her. She is awesome. For the record, she's going to put her knee to the test when she skis in the women's downhill event Sunday, Feb 8. That's this Sunday, isn't it?
It is Super Bowl Sunday.
Sunday, Feb 8. How How about the Lindsey Vonn injury timeline? Feb 2026, torn ACL and meniscus in left knee. 2019 impact injury to the, I don't even know what nerve this is, Peroneal nerve.
Not sure.
2018, torn lateral collateral ligament and meniscus in the left knee with 3 tibial plateau fractures. December 2016, acute facet spinal joint dysfunction. November 2016, severely fractured humerus in her right arm. Feb 2016, multiple fractures in the left knee. 2015, broken ankle. 2013, torn right ACL and MCL twice, requiring surgery and causing her to miss the 2014 Olympics. 2010, Feb, broken right pinky finger. That almost seems like it doesn't belong.
Right.
They threw that in.
Her pinky.
2009, microfractures in her left forearm. 2009, earlier that year, severed tendon in right thumb.
Goodness.
It goes on and on and on. And then there's other things like lacerated thumb, bruises, concussions. I mentioned, I think, once the tibial plateau fracture, which sounds ominous. Did I mention broken left ankle before? I think I did the humerus bone. The spinal joint dysfunction, that partial knee replacement in April 2024, by the way. That's the one where she's got the titanium?
I think so.
That's the other knee.
Right.
From the one that she just suffered the torn ACL, correct?
Correct.
I mean, that's a list. That's a list that any professional football player would be proud of, let alone a downhill skier. So,
and do we say it? How long?
Will Lindsey Vonn milk it?
Would Buxton? Would Maurer?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Would anybody milk it?
Yeah. I'm rooting for it. I got to admit, I feel guilty a bit. I do, because I go, God, this is. But it's the sort of story that draws me to sports. It's the old deal of you shouldn't do something, or it's supposed to limit you in a way that makes it impossible to excel the same way, and you find a way to do it. You find a way to overcome all of it in the largest stage, the Winter Olympics. I mean, are you kidding me? This is going to be one hell of a story to watch. And even if it ends badly, where she is not able to perform at her usual high level, I think I'm all in on it. Let's put it that way. Bonus bucks?
Dan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest, and the first keyword of the afternoon is money. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword money.
I will use the Michael Jordan analogy with Lindsey Vonn. Do you remember once upon a time when Air Jordan decided that he'd had enough of basketball, and he said, you know what I want to be? I want to be a baseball player. So I'm going to join the Chicago White Sox organization, and I'm going to beat the bushes. I'm going to go. I'm going to ride on the minor league buses. Yep. I want to say it was in the South.
Birmingham Barons.
Birmingham, you're right. Exactly. Yep. Good memory.
I was like if they had a MLB ticket to watch Michael Jordan baseball, I would have done it back then.
And I recall at the time some of the seamheads expressing their anger about Michael Jordan's arrogance. The premise being, Michael Jordan just decides he wants to try out for baseball, thereby denying, in a given season, another young player's opportunity to be a member, let's say, of the Birmingham Barons.
Their dream.
And I recall writing something to the effect of, and so the moral of the story was, well, the only way he's getting away with this is he's Michael Jordan. And I think my answer to that was, Bingo.
Yeah.
You're exactly
You
right.
cracked the code.
You've discovered electricity. And I'd say the same for Vonn at this point. I'd say, yeah, is there a chance that somebody else is being deprived? And you could say an Olympic dream is a higher level than a minor league baseball, get on a bus to go from Birmingham to, I don't know, Paducah, Kentucky. Tuscaloosa for a game. But I'd say the same thing, that when you're in that rarefied air, the rules have already been altered for you. And I just don't think people are that offended if you've achieved that level of distinction, that level of excellence in whatever particular activity or sport that you have indeed pursued, right? It's just not that difficult. So I am fascinated to hear, because if I hadn't read this, I wouldn't have known, because one of the quotes from one of the skiers was, it's kind of our sport's dirty little secret. People don't talk about it, but a lot of us have been doing that from time to time. Historically, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's not unprecedented. Because I don't understand skiing enough to figure out, well, can you literally ski on a knee in that condition? Does it preclude you from doing even the most rudimentary parts of getting down the hill? And the answer apparently is it does not.
It must not.
So is it pain over? I mean, is it a pain threshold thing?
Probably. And I'm sure there's some stability stuff that you have to worry about and account for. And I'm guessing they know every trick of the trade to figure it out. It's been interesting to hear, like, orthopedic surgeons, and everybody's got one, right? There's a million of them on Twitter. Everyone's being quoted in all the stories about it.
Yes.
And everyone, if there is a unanimous thought on it, it's, yeah, she can. I wouldn't recommend it. And X, Y, and Z could happen, but it is possible. And that's what some of these great ones, that's all they need, right? Just the 1% chance.
Question.
Don't tell me what the odds are. Don't tell me what I might do. I'm going to try to figure it out. That's what got them on the mountain in the first place.
Well, in her case, I would say, too, I have gone back to ridiculous training past when I really wanted to get back in this whole thing again. So I'm going to play it out. And I'm sure in her mind, it's, even if she bombs, it's, well, I'll only know if I do it.
Exactly.
And if I don't do it, I'll always wonder, because I doubt she can wait 4 more years, can she?
I wondered about it briefly. I'd be surprised, but again,
I don't know what the limit is.
Why couldn't she?
Yeah, maybe she could. I don't know.
Serena Williams is apparently plotting some tennis comeback.
Is she?
For later in the year, maybe to play with their sister one last time. That's the big buzz in the rumor, and she's, I think, older than Lindsey Vonn, or right around there.
50 is the new 30, is what you're saying. There's a difference between a torn ACL and a ruptured ACL. Rupture means it is fully separated. A 1% tear is relatively minor. 99% tear hanging by a string would be worse. But yes, many never get their ACLs repaired from either. That's according to Rob in Shakopee. I'm not a great torn ACL mind. Is this true? Vonn's lacerated thumb came about while opening a bottle of champagne after a victory, only adding to the legend. Is that a good joke, or is that true? I don't remember.
I don't remember, but let's go with it.
Yeah. Dan, I hate the argument she's taking a spot from someone else. This is just false. The American women have 11 women on the ski team that qualify. They already have 3 or 4 other women participating in the downhill. The alternate would not have made the requirements to even qualify for the Olympics. Vonn on one knee still has a better chance than a replacement. It's a ridiculous argument. Copyright one of us, Jesse Diggins. Good afternoon, gentlemen. When will you finish with explaining all of Lindsey's injuries? I'll be home for my drive, from good old Eveleth, Minnesota.
Eveleth. Wow.
And finally, long live the baby skeezes. That's what we used to call her.
We did.
The baby skeezes.
I forgot about that.
Back in the day, it's been a long time. Big. Years and years, I would say, correct?
Given how long she's been in the public eye, yes.
Well, I'm guessing, as I said last week, NBC might have ordained that she continues to ski.
We'll give you a $10 million bonus.
Yeah, they may have thrown something extra into the mix that we don't even know about, because I'm going to guess they're going to like their chances if indeed she continues to at least try to gut this thing out.
Exactly.
They'll be able to milk this story for the entire Olympics, especially if she's somehow successful, correct?
It's must watch. Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt about that. Dan, I think the difference between Vonn and Wentz is Wentz plays in a sport with stoppages and backups that can come in mid-competition. Once Vonn is out of the gate to test the knee, that's no longer an option. That's a fair point. And I actually think some of this is the difference between being in a team sport and an individual sport. I think in general, we give the individual a lot more leeway about
that's true
going further or sacrificing more potentially. In a game like football, we say, well, there's a coach. Now, I know technically she's got an instructor. I mean, I'm sure there's a coach for the Olympic team, but it just doesn't feel the same as the coach on a football Sunday in the National Football League as well. One more text before we prepare for our 3:30 guest. This is from texter Tony. Yeah, Lindsey is also familiar with the Pain Cave. Remember the Pain Cave? What was the Pain Cave?
Yeah, vaguely. I don't remember.
Was that was related to her? Was it something about how you train? You basically torture yourself to better in the Pain Cave to better prepare yourself that you're almost ready for anything if you've survived the Pain Cave? What's the Pain Cave background? We'll double check that during the break. We'll have time to get back to it a little bit later as well. But when we come back, Sam Mitchell is going to check in with us, or we will check in with him. We'll get his view on the trades that have been made, trades that not yet have been consummated. How hard should the Wolves go after Giannis? How much is too much? And what else he has heard. We'll catch up with our good buddy Sam Mitchell next here in the Fan. All right, we are inside 24 hours before the NBA trade deadline for this year. That is tomorrow at 2 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock Eastern, to help us digest what has already been consummated and what might be coming. What better day than today to chat with our old friend Sam Mitchell, joining us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. I have an injury question for you first before we delve into what the Wolves should and shouldn't do and what some other teams already have done. We were discussing, you familiar with Lindsey Vonn, the all-time great skier who is... Yeah. So she...
Tiger Woods' ex-girlfriend.
That is also true. That's 100% true. So she just suffered a bad ACL injury, knee pretty well shredded. And the assumption was, well, that might be it for her. And she's already saying, I don't care. I am going to go up the hill, up the mountain, and I am going to participate. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm not going to be cheated. I am rooting for her. My producer is rooting for her because it's, to me, sort of why we're attracted to sports. Impossible situations and how athletes deal with that. But are we being reckless? Is it insensitive for us to say, yeah, go ahead, just give it a shot? Is that unfair? Or do you say you leave it up to the individual athlete?
Man, you leave it up to the individual athlete. We cannot legislate what other people choose to do or not do. She's got the best doctors in the world. She's got trainers. She's got everybody telling her what she can and can't do. At the end of the day, it's her decision. And look, I'm with you, man. If she want to go down that mountain 80 miles an hour with one leg, God, I pray for her.
Yeah, right. That's fair. What is the most significant injury in the Sam Mitchell basketball history where you look back and say, I was an idiot to keep playing despite that, to try to play through that injury? If ever.
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
No, because, Dan, I had microfracture surgery at the end of one season, and I basically finished the last 41 games on one leg. And, but, every time I came in that locker room, KG would look at me and ask me how I felt and could I go. And he knew I was in pain. And I think back to the nights where, as sick as he was, and he played, and Tony Campbell, and we all, everybody on that team that was dependent on to play, when we were hurt or sick or whatever, we sucked it up and played, man. And at the end of the day, yeah, you do it for the organization, you do it for the fans and stuff, but at the end of the day, it comes down to individuals, and you do it for your teammates because that love in that locker room that we have for each other. And then I would include Flip and Kevin McHale in that, man. Flip and Kevin McHale, even though they were management, Flip the coach and Kev, the president, they treated us like family. And, you know, we all had history with each other. So, no, man, I there's not one injury I look back and say, if I had to do it over again, I would not have played.
All right. The key question here as we approach the deadline is whether you will be disappointed if the anticipated move, which clearly is the Wolves have serious interest in trying to acquire Giannis from Milwaukee, does not take place. What do you think?
The one thing that you cannot do, you just can't empty the vaults to make a trade. You can't make a bad move just for the sake of making a move. When you think about Giannis, look, if you can get him, go get him. But if you got to give up Julius Randle, Nas, and who else you and I was talking about?
Jaden.
No, that's too much, man. Look, Giannis can be at his best better than 1.5 players on the floor. He's not going to outplay 3 guys because he can't guard 3 positions at the same time. And he has an injury history. And I would bet you that at no time where all 3 of those guys that we mentioned as a possible trade for Giannis will all be out at the same time. But I can bet you any amount of money you want to that at some point Giannis is going to miss some time.
So for you, it's what the price is. That you would probably do it, but it has to be, if that's the price, you think that's too much to give up and you actually end up in a less advantageous position than if you didn't make the deal at all.
Well, we do know this. This team is good enough to go to the Western Conference Finals. We know that. We know this team is good enough to go deep into the Western Conference. We know they can win games. Now, if we give up those 3 guys, then we have no stopgap. We have nothing to protect ourselves in case of an injury. So that's just too high a price to give up. Then when you start talking about the picks and things don't really scare me,
right?
Because no one knows who those picks are.
That's true.
You know, why do you think Danny Ainge did a about face and all of a sudden traded for Jaren Jackson Jr.? What is he, year 4 or 5 into this rebuild? How's that going? Look at what Memphis getting ready to go through.
Yeah.
How long is that? Look what Philadelphia, how long it took for them to get Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. And heck, Ben Simmons is not even there anymore, not even in the league. So, man, teams want to rebuild. Look at Washington. They had a chance to get Anthony Davis and people like, wow, but they're looking at this saying, we got stars, we got this guy, we got that guy, and we're going to have to make a decision on whether to pay these guys a lot of money, and they're not there yet. And we're going to be paying guys on potential, and that's how general managers and coaches get fired, waiting on potential.
Do the Wolves need to find a guard to start to give themselves the best chance moving forward? Or do they just need a scorer off the bench? I mean, because basically now Anthony is kind of the de facto point guard on this team.
Well, this is the problem. If you look at the 2 teams, to me, the 2 teams in the West that you got to be concerned about. 3, Denver, OKC, and San Antonio.
Yeah.
Those the 2 teams, OKC and San Antonio, other than Victor, what do they rely on? Their guard play.
Yeah, the wings.
They're quicker, they're faster, they break you down, they cause a problem, they get into the paint, they start their chain reaction for the ball moving, and then you just can't catch up and they make shots. And then defensively, they can defend you. The reason San Antonio can beat OKC is the guards. San Antonio guards are just as young, but a little bit bigger and just as fast and explosive. So I thought the Wolves was doing these deals to try to get Kobe White. And if you put Anthony Edwards and Kobe White in the backcourt, you got a chance because, look, Dan, 85% of the players that are in the league today came into the league as what? Scorers. We were scorers.
Yeah.
Right? So when they talk about how bad defense is, yeah, defense bad. If 85% of the players in your league, their identity before they got to the league was offense, not defense. So obviously, most of the time, the defense is not going to be at the par. But when you look at offensively what Kobe White and Anthony Edwards could bring to those guys in the backcourt, I think it would give them a legit chance. Now, again, do they have a chance? Yeah, but, man, the West is brutal. And I wouldn't get concerned about doing a bad deal. Well, they got to do something to keep Anthony Edwards. Just look one state over and look at Milwaukee. Look at Wisconsin. And because of all those bad moves, listening to the media, you got it. As long as you got Giannis, you got to be in the championship mode. That's a dumb way to think. And for all those people that sit up there on the ESPN and give all these commentaries and think that people need to do these things, they've never managed a team. They've never done anything other than they don't understand the game. And so that's why Milwaukee is sitting there, in my estimation, looking foolish because now they got to trade. And I said this to a guy. Milwaukee had Kareem. Since they've had Kareem, who was the most dominant player they've had other than Kareem?
Well, Giannis, absolutely.
How long did it take them to get Giannis, to find him after they lost Kareem?
More than a minute.
Thank you. So how long do you think it's going to take to find the next one?
Yeah, that's
you and I may not be alive to see it.
Yeah. Well, Giannis, here's the interesting thing to me about Giannis is that you know how good he is. I think he's 31, but you have to, part of it is the body starting to break down. And, you're the perfect person to speak to this because let's just say in theory, you do still find a way to get him here and you pair him with Edwards and you go, man, that's 2 top 10 players, right, in the league. Let's go play and we'll figure something out after that. But the trend is not.
You get your butt in trouble.
The trend is not the two-headed monster superstar approach, though, right? These days it's depth. It's lots of wings, like you said, lots of options, not so much getting the 2 superstars.
Well, if you can get 2 superstars and put the team around them,
then you got
great.
Everything.
A lot of teams. You think about this: San Antonio, Victor is obviously a superstar. You got De'Aaron Fox. You got some other young guys who can develop into superstars. You got Shea. You got Jalen Williams. You got Chet. So there are a lot of combinations out there. You got Durant and Şengün. There are still those 2 combinations out there, but it's built a little different than what it used to look like. Look. I think you can get away with 2. 3, you can't afford 3 because now you can't put a team around those guys. And so I would never put myself in a position to where I'm solely dependent on just 2 players when we've just seen it takes 9 to 10 players. You got to have depth in the days of the NBA to win for championship. And I would not give up all of my depth to bring in Giannis. I give up some of it, but not all of it.
You mentioned White. That dream's dead. He's already been traded to the Hornets.
I saw that.
Including, and by the way, Mike Conley is in that deal, which I'm told means, according to the rules, if they let him go or he gets bought out, he could technically come back here as depth. But I still think Mike has, we all know how important Mike has been to this organization. You know how much of a pro's pro he is, but he is getting longer in the tooth. His production has gone down. And so are there any other guards out there, maybe not even with huge names, that you think could actually still help these guys? Because right now, Sam, Naz Reid is the only one providing any scoring off the bench.
Well, I thought Dennis Schroeder could have been one of those guys, but he got dealt.
Yeah.
I think yesterday he could have been that guy, and I thought Kobe White, but I can't tell you, Dan. I would have to sit down and see the list of guys that I think would be available. I just can't tell you, man. And what it tells you is that maybe the Wolves did this deal strictly for money. And I understand it, man. That second apron can be expensive, that second tax, but this is where we are in today's NBA, man. So, I love Mike Conley as a voice in the locker room, but if you got to put him on the floor in the playoffs, teams are just going to attack him, man. That's not fair to Mike. That's not fair to the rest of the guys. Mike cannot guard the position anymore. So when I look at some possible deals out there, if you can't bring a guy in that's going to make a difference and start for you, then what are you doing?
Well, as you know, the sad fact is that, Rob Dillingham has not come along as quickly as I think they'd hoped. He's just not. None of the young guys are in the mix. And to that extent, they're missing Nikhil.
So wait a minute. A draft pick, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That didn't develop, right? Oh, okay. How many times we've seen this before?
Too many times. And they haven't replaced Nikhil, the guy you see, your Atlanta area. I mean, that's a big
killing
one.
Them.
Yes.
That's the move. That not being able, you can look back on some of the deals that they've done and maybe paying Rudy what they had to pay Rudy.
Right.
Kept them from being able to keep Nikhil. But think about if they could have held on to Nikhil right now. They would be set. I mean, because he's defending, he's scoring, he can knock down the three.
Yep.
And that size,
man,
makes him a guy that can switch and do a lot of things defensively. So, regardless of what they get, they're not going to replace that size, that production on offense, and definitely not defense. They had him in the room. They had him in the building.
They did.
And didn't value him enough and then hold on to him.
Well, here's the deal. They said financially they couldn't bring everybody back. They had to make a decision. So they couldn't keep Nas and him. So the issue was, which way do you go under that condition?
Do Julius Randle and Nas duplicate each other?
In some ways, yes. Not completely, though, because Nas now is, I should say, Randall has now become point forward guy. So in some ways, yes, some ways, no.
But you could play the rest of the season with him playing the point forward position?
You talking about Randall?
You could. Yeah.
Yeah, you could. That's true.
Well, because that's where you've kind of put yourself in position right now.
Well, they're like I said, their biggest but look, a year ago, their bench included DiVincenzo and Nikhil. Nikhil's gone, and DiVincenzo is in the starting lineup. So you could see the problem. If none of the young guys are going to step up, they're hurting. I honestly don't think they can get back to the Final Four without adding some kind of decent, doesn't have to be great, but a decent scoring piece that you can count on hitting some shots off the bench, because they're utterly dependent on Nas. They do not get anything else consistently off the bench offensively.
But I don't see another major deal out there.
No, that's the problem. Yeah, well,
not even a small deal. Not to bring back the type of player that can be an impact. You're talking about a guy that can either come off the bench and score for you, or a guy that can start for you. Where's that guy? A bunch of teams are looking for that guy.
Yeah, I'm willing to wait, but let me throw it to you this way: if the Wolves don't make even a medium-sized move, and the only move they make at the deadline is to save money, would you be satisfied with that if you were a Wolves fan, given the position this team is in?
Yeah, if it stops me from doing a dumb deal. To do a deal for the sake of doing a deal just don't make sense.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Look at how many teams have done bad deals because they felt like they just needed to do something.
True.
The Wolves are still a good team the way they're built and the way they're constituted. No one's saying they still can't come out the West. The West is not settled and done. Look at the West. Now, when you look at the way that Oklahoma City can lose to Denver can beat OKC now. We know San Antonio can. Who are you telling me in the West that Minnesota really can't beat? If they get their defense back right.
That's the key.
If Anthony Edwards, Jaden Daniels, and Rudy Gobert, if those three guys, they got three guys on the floor in the starting lineup that could potentially lock people down. If they get back to that mindset, which they had 2 years ago, not last year, but 2 years ago, when they were shutting people down, that team could still compete for a Western Conference title. But they got to the coaches got to sit down with those guys and remind them, if they start back playing defense the way they're capable, they can beat anybody. All
right, let me ask you a coaching question, follow up. You know, the last game the Wolves played, they had two in a row in Memphis. The first one they won, but the head coach, Finchie, was not happy with the way they played and allegedly lit into him in the locker room, according to Anthony Edwards. They come out the next game, their defense was awful, and they lose the game. Memphis, I think, had lost 6 in a row previously. They had some kind of a losing streak like that. And after the game, the whole approach from Finchie was, it's up to them. It's up to them. And here's my question as a guy who's been in that chair. Is it dangerous when a coach starts saying, well, you know, not my problem, it's up to them? Because at some point I go, wait a minute, it is your team a little bit, so isn't it supposed to be up to you too?
So let me ask you this question. When you lit into them the night before when they won, it was up to you and it was up to us. When they come back the next night and lose, now it's on them. No, it's always we.
Right.
It's never me. And the coach, number one job, look, man, it's like this, Dan. You're going to get the responsibility is going to fall in your lap regardless. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to leave it strictly up to the players, knock yourself out. But there's an unemployment line that's littered with a lot of coaches that have done that.
Yes.
I think Chris is a good coach, and he understands, man. And he's a little, he's trying to find that right. But when you've been with a team for a while,
yeah, that's true.
The biggest problem sometimes is that they get comfortable with you and you get comfortable with them. And you sometimes forget those buttons to push. And that's why it's so important, man, that your leaders, that your best players, that they manage the players. If you as the coach is still managing the players and not managing the game and coaching the game, then you're in trouble. If the good teams, the championship teams, the players run the locker room. The good teams I was on in Minnesota and in Indiana, Larry Brown didn't have to worry about our locker room. We policed each other. If a guy wasn't doing his job, a guy wasn't playing up to a certain level, we would talk to him. We would get on him. And then at a certain point, hey, coach, you need to sit down for a while. Players, great teams, the players manage the locker room. Coach can't do that. He's got to coach, manage the game, manage the roster, manage the minutes, coach the players, keep them pointed in the right direction. But as far as that locker room, that's when your leadership of your team should take over.
Is Anthony Edwards, do you feel like, is he a top 5 player yet? Or do you put him top 6 or 7? Where is Anthony in his ascension and continuum?
I think he's right there. I think in order to be in that top 5, you're the MVP candidate.
Yeah.
And I think there are weeks where he's there, and then there are weeks where, look, I don't care on what night it is, he's a top 10 player.
Right.
But if he wants to be that guy, if he wants to be that Kobe, that Michael, that LeBron, that dude, then it's got to be you got to dominate both sides of the ball. You got to become that dude, and he can do it.
He can.
And I remember, man, Phil Jackson, I watched something that Phil Jackson he said to Shaq, when he first started coaching Shaq, 6-7 games into the season, he asked Shaq, what's the biggest thing Wilt did? And Shaq started throwing off numbers, 50 points, 25 rebounds. Phil said, no. The greatest thing Wilt Chamberlain ever did, he played 48 minutes of every game for the whole season.
Yeah.
And the reason he was able to do that because he was in shape. Nick Saban says it all the time. Lack of condition keeps you from being at your best. The reason Michael Jordan, on top of the talent and the work ethic, the reason he was the best, it seems like he could go longer and harder than anyone. Why? Because he trained harder. He pushed himself harder. And I think Anthony Edwards have all those tools in him. He just needs to make up his mind whether he just want to be a top 10 player or does he want to try to be the best player. Did
the Wolves blow it not taking advantage of the opportunity to bring D'Lo back, D'Angelo Russell?
I don't think so, man. No, because D'Lo haven't showed that. Look, you don't have to be a great defender, technique, Dan, but you got to give effort. You got to lay it on the line, man. And I've seen too many nights where he just doesn't do that. And when you're talking about winning a championship, and I'm coaching against you. You put guys on the floor that I feel are not committed to one side of the ball, I'm going to attack them.
No doubt.
And when you start attacking those guys as a coach, you either have to take them out of the game or you got to give them help. And come playoff time, man, the team that has to help the least is the team that's probably going to win.
I agree. In fact, to me, D'Lo has always been one of the most aggravating players I've ever watched as a pro because I think you and I will agree that he's got skill. He's got talent.
Oh, yeah.
But I just don't understand how some teammates somewhere along the line, a Sam Mitchell type, couldn't have taken him aside and explained it to him and said, man, you're blowing this. You stop acting like you're always the victim. You keep getting dealt because you don't do the things you need to do to match your talent. I'm amazed no one was able, like a Sam Mitchell type, to get through to him that way.
Yeah, you know what would have been good for D'Lo early in his career? Maybe to be on the verge of being out the league.
Yeah.
Because think about it, he was the second pick of the draft.
Yeah.
And if you go back and look at the second pick, the fact that he's the second pick of the draft in his career, he made some money, but he didn't make a third, or he didn't make a third of the more money he could have made. And then when you look at his career, you would have to say it wasn't as spectacular as we thought it would be.
That's true, 100% true. And he's never, he was part of this big deal, the Anthony Davis deal, I think, correct? So Davis goes.
Well, he was the guy that was supposed to come in and kind of hold things down until Kyrie came back.
Right. It didn't work out, did it?
Nope.
It didn't even come close to work out. By the way, one last thing, Sam Mitchell, kind enough to join us. What is Jamal Mashburn smoking these days? Because I saw the quote. I'm sure you guys have talked about it on NBA, Sirius XM, that Cooper Flagg would not be. He would be like the 6th best player in the upcoming draft. How is that? Just the old, I'm going to say something outrageous just to get the attention, or what? I mean, Cooper Flagg looks pretty good to me, Sam. How about you?
Well, he does, man, and I think a lot of people, but I know this class coming up. Darren Peterson, I coached this kid at Kansas for 2 summers. I've seen the kid, AJ. I've seen all these kids, Boozer kid. This is a pretty good class, man.
I'll grant you that.
Some guys. But I would still say, looking at the way Cooper Flagg has played, now we're talking about Cooper Flagg is probably going to be Rookie of the Year. And you look at the numbers, how he's steadily gotten better. Let's put it to you like this. Cooper Flagg has gotten so good so fast at 19 years old, the Dallas Mavericks traded Anthony Davis because they realized that they don't want to pay him. Not when we got Cooper Flagg to build around. So if I was Jamal and some of these other guys coming into the draft, I might would kind of hold my tongue because Cooper Flagg is setting a high bar.
He really is.
You know this, Dan. All those guys that has all this hope, all of them are not going to make it. No. All of them are not going to turn out to be superstars.
No, I like the way he's carried himself too. In addition to how dominant he looks.
He's looking like an old soul. He's 19, but he carries himself like he's 24, 25.
He
like
really
he's
does.
Been here before.
Did the Wolves screw up not trying to get James Harden, or would that have been insane?
Stop, man. Stop.
I'm just asking.
Stop. You did. Now, did you ask that being serious, or did you just want to hear me say
50%. I actually yesterday
First of all, Dan, I can't believe Cleveland did that deal. 37 for 26.
Yeah.
James Harden history in the playoffs. And I'll tell you this.
At least he's healthy. Garland never plays.
Look, man, I take my chance on a 26-year-old that's been hurt. Look, man, that toe is a hard thing to deal with, especially when you keep trying to rush a guy back. So think about it. Darius Garland is an all-star point guard that hadn't even reached his prime. We've seen James Harden. James them putting up numbers, but look at James Harden them had to go. The Clippers have had to go, 15-5 just to get back into the play-in.
Yeah, that's true. So your answer is no.
I feel like Cleveland did this deal because that tells me that the GM and the coach are on the hot seat.
Yeah, that's probably true.
That they're afraid for their job, and this is a panic move that's not going to work. As a matter of fact, because they're going to have to give James an extension, I just don't see anything good about this happening.
What are you on tonight? You're doing some TV tonight, aren't you?
I'm doing the Raptors-Wolves game.
Oh, that's right. Okay, there you go. Even better. That's it. Perfect. Well, enjoy that. Good to catch up, and we'll talk to you very soon. Thanks, man.
All right.
Be good, Sam. Sam Mitchell, kind enough to join us. We're going to break here quickly because we got another guest coming up right after a very short pause. Our old friend Gerald Posner will join. We'll go very much A-section, a couple of interesting subjects that he has been exploring recently in his fine investigative reporting and columnizing work. We'll catch up with Gerald. That's next here in the